we came up with the concept of the 26 Mountains to Mayo Challenge. We're doing it over 9 days between the 7th and 15th of June this year. We've set ourselves an absolute minimum of £1 million that we're going to raise for this charity. I've recruited a team of 20 highly motivated, highly driven business leaders who've come together, amazingly committing to raising a minimum of £50,000 each. So if all we do, and I hope we'll do a lot more than that, is each raise £50,000, we're going to raise a fantastic amount of money for Cancer Fund for Children.
We're back with episode 15 of the Unstoppable podcast. I'm incredibly excited because I'm joined by Roger Johnston today. Thanks for calling.
Good to see you, Johnny.
Yes, great to have you on, and I'm incredibly excited to hear from Roger. He's taking part in a pretty huge challenge, and we're going to share more on that throughout this podcast, and just his journey in both business, life, and what has brought him to taking and embarking on challenges like he's going to do in June.
In June of 2025 this year.
Epic, yeah. And how are you feeling about the whole thing before we share what it is?
So I'm feeling excited, I'm feeling nervous, probably a mix of all emotions, which will be interesting to explore over the next hour or so.
Yeah, I think that's when you know you're doing something good, whenever there's such a mix of emotions. If you knew it was going to be easy, you wouldn't be nervous or excited, really, and I think that's going to be great for you. And whenever you think about your journey up to now, tell us a bit about who you are and what you do, because people may have seen the challenge already, they may not have seen the challenge, but back to yourself and who you are and what you do. Tell us a bit more about yourself and the journey you've been on.
Sure. So firstly, I'm 59 years old. I'm married with 2 grown-up sons. I went to school in Northern Ireland. I went to university here. And then I've been fortunate enough for the next 37 years of my life to travel around the world, working in amazing places, meeting amazing people, doing amazing projects, hopefully throughout evangelizing for Northern Ireland. My world is software, so I've been involved in early stage and growth stage software companies. I've worked for a number of the biggest IT and software services companies in the world. Currently, for the last 5.5 years, I've been honoured and proud to be the CEO of a company called Axial 3D, again, which I hope to share a little bit more about.
Yeah, and tell us more about Axial 3D. We're here in the beautiful offices here in Belfast, centre of the Belfast, and I know you've won a lot of awards for innovation, and I think it's an incredible business. Every time I tell people about what you do and what Axial 3D does, they're always really intrigued. So if you were to share a little bit more about that, that would be great.
Yeah, so one of the things I'm most proud about Axial 3D is our mission. So our mission is to transform the lives and outcomes for millions of patients around the world. So that's a very big statement. What we do is, using the latest artificial intelligence technology, automatically convert MRI, CT, X-ray and other types of medical images into incredibly precise 3D. Something I should have said about myself, along with my work career, I've attempted to be a somewhat serious sports person, at least in my younger years. I got to maybe my late 20s and early 30s, and orthopedically, I probably wasn't in such good shape after a little bit too much trauma. So I've experienced lots of orthopedic trauma, sporting injuries, where I've needed medical images. And often the surgeon has said to me, "Roger, as you can clearly see," and I'm a clever guy and I have a little bit of an ego, so I say, "Oh yes," when in fact I can't see anything that he's showing me. The scary thing that I've learned since joining Axial 3D is that the surgeons often can't see exactly what's wrong with me. So often I've woken up from surgery on a number of occasions and they say, "You'll never guess what we found, and we've been able to do an even better job than we planned." But that's a little bit scary, the fact that the imaging doesn't give them the information they need. So We are the first in the world to automatically be able to turn those somewhat vague or imprecise images into incredibly precise 3D images, where for good or for bad, you and I will totally understand what is wrong with us when the surgeon tells us what we've been diagnosed with. And much more importantly, the surgeon gets that clarity of understanding what's wrong with the patients in the planning phase, as opposed to midway through the surgery, when of course that logically doesn't, and in practice is totally the wrong time to be finding out exactly what's wrong with you.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable journey, and I've actually been up where you do the 3D prints and seen some of them in person, and they are unbelievable. I never thought you could see this machine and then it could print out this thing that is completely accurate to the body part that maybe the surgeon's working on. You do a lot of work in America, and I'm not sure what work you do here, but tell us about that, you know, going to America, branching into that American market. Is that where the business has always been working, or does it do some work here in Ireland, or how does it work?
So since we commercially launched the business, really in 2020, the invention happened over the previous couple of years before that, but since 2020, we have been used in over 400 hospitals around the world in over 40 countries and been used by over 50 medical device companies. So that's something we're very proud of. Of course, the greatest concentration of those organizations is in North America, which is why we spend so much time, so much emphasis of our business in the US, especially if we look to those medical device companies. Most of those are headquartered in the US, and most of the research or innovation is focused in the US. So that's why we spend so much time in those places. Of course, being a Northern Irish company, I said we started commercializing at the beginning of 2020, which of course was a truly awesome time to launch a medical device company in the world. So for the first couple of years, of course, through COVID, we were able to repurpose a lot of what we did to support the environment that was created through COVID. But we've been able to, through our invention, be able to, with our world first position, truly our world first, is to be able to go and have compelling conversations with the greatest medical device companies, the greatest medical imaging companies, and indeed many of the greatest hospitals in the world.
Yeah, quite an incredible journey to say the least, and I'm excited to see you guys continue to progress as a business and
Thank you.
Follow along with the journey. But we've got a big challenge coming up.
We have a big challenge. So one of the opportunities I've had in my life, especially over the last 6 and 7 years, is to spend at least a part of my time doing challenges for myself as I get into my late 50s. I'm now 59, as I said. I wanted to prove to myself that actually orthopedically I was able for certain things. So I've been very fortunate to take up or to find hiking in mountains as a new passion, perhaps to replace some more contact sports or whatever that I was able to do when I was younger. That led me in 2019, I got invited to join an expedition on behalf of the Irish Rugby Football Union Charitable Trust to go with a number of past Irish rugby players and summit Kilimanjaro. I had never thought of doing that, and it was a remarkable experience. And not only did it help me in my own mental health, my own physical preparation that I had to do for it, the new experience I had being at the top, literally at the top of Africa with no phone signal, no way off the mountain that wasn't at least a 3 or 4 day walk. It was a remarkable experience having to tackle things like altitude sickness, which was something I've never thought of, and the impact of a lack of oxygen. We went to a height of 5,900 meters, which is
Wow.
super high. So that challenged me personally, but it also opened up a whole new range of opportunities for me to think about the values, what's important in life, what I can bring back to my company and what I've learned from that experience. And that's a journey I've been on since 2019. So I've been fortunate enough to do a number of hikes to some of the great hiking locations in the world since. This year we went to Everest Base Camp. Previously we've hiked around the Andes Mountains in Peru. We've been in North Africa to the highest mountain in North Africa in the Atlas Mountains called Mount Donegal. We've hiked all around the Alps. So this has become somewhat of a passion, and as I've gone along, I've enjoyed raising money for local Northern Irish and Irish charities. Last year I had the opportunity to do a little bit of the walk with an ex-Irish and British Lion captain called Rory Best. Rory had taken up the challenge to raise vast amounts of money, millions of euros, for Cancer Fund for Children, which is an All-Ireland charity I'm sure we'll spend a little bit talking about. Rory has done two 200-mile walks, first of all from Newcastle, County Down, where the charity have a Daisy Lodge respite centre, to their next centre in Cong in Mayo. And then subsequent year he walked from Aviva Stadium in Dublin to Cong again, both 200 miles over 10 days. I had the pleasure to join him last year for a leg in the Midlands in Ireland. And apart from the fact that he walked at 10 kilometres an hour, which I don't ever remember running that fast, it was truly amazing to see not only the scale of the fundraising. Literally every town and village we walked through, there were thousands of people out joining the walk, collecting or providing small donations to Rory, with people collecting monies as we walked along. It was inspirational. Every business we passed, we would make a diversion in and they'd present a cheque to Rory. Every school we walked past, they'd present a cheque to Rory. And I just saw the opportunity to, instead of raising a few tens of thousands of pounds or euros of funding by my own personal efforts, how could I mobilise a group to actually make a real difference and raise a significant amount of money and learn from Rory's challenge. The challenge he did was called 200 miles to Mayo. So that, with my hiking, I came up with the idea of climbing to the high point of all 32 counties in Ireland, which of course, being Ireland, is only 26 mountains, as some are shared. So we came up with the concept of the 26 Mountains to Mayo challenge. We're doing it over 9 days between the 7th and 15th of June this year. I believe we're going to be the first large group to do this challenge. To achieve the monies that I'm aiming to raise here, so we've set ourselves an absolute minimum of £1 million that we're going to raise for this charity. I've recruited a team of 20 highly motivated, highly driven business leaders who are all challenge focused and also have that philanthropic part to their makeup, to their composition, to their lives, who have come together. Each are amazingly committing to raising a minimum of £50,000 each. So if all we do, and I hope we'll do a lot more than that, is each raise £50,000, we're going to raise a fantastic amount of money for Cancer Fund for Children.
It's incredible, and huge respect for doing something like that, because it's not an easy feat. And it's interesting how you were inspired by seeing Rory's challenge, seeing the impact that he was having and the impact that had both on the charity and the people that were involved in the challenge and also got involved. And that's the beauty of doing something like this, because you've set yourself a challenge, and it kicked off whenever you shared earlier when you went up Kilimanjaro. That was almost the start of you kind of doing these hiking challenges, doing something different, doing something out of the ordinary. And it's now turned into the 26 Mountains to Mayo, which is exactly what you're doing in 2025, which is interesting. And also you talked about strength in numbers, and I think that's a lesson for everyone listening. The people you have around you are going to determine what you're able to achieve, and being able to be around good people. And in this scenario, you've got that group of business leaders that are committed, that are willing to do something out of the ordinary. They're willing to challenge themselves. They're willing to take time away from their businesses to actually do and have an impact on the world. And I suppose that draws me to my next question whenever we think about the Cancer Fund for Children and why you chose that charity.
Yeah, so my business, Axial 3D, to maybe elaborate a little, our invention is to automatically turn MRI and CT scans in particular at high scale to highly precise 3D. From that medical imaging, you can then derive things like measurements of, if you've a clot, how big is that clot? Where exactly is the clot? How dense is that clot? That automatically give physician teams information they don't have today to give you a much better diagnostic and plan forwards. We conducted a study with the Belfast Trust back some years ago using 3D, and we found that in over 38% of cases, when the surgeon or doctor used the 3D imaging compared to just relying on the MRI or CT scan, they changed the plan for surgery in over 50% of cases for those 38% of complex cases. Those patients have a surgery that lasts an hour less, and they get out of bed 19% faster. So that's the impact our technology can have. So every time we produce a model or an image that you look at on your cell phone or goes into a VR headset, that is a real person whose life is impacted every time. Everything we do, there's a person on the end of it whose life hopefully improves because of what we do. So when I look at the charity, the Cancer Fund for Children, their motto or mission is that no child should have to go through cancer alone on the island of Ireland. Whether they be the cancer sufferer, whether it's one of their siblings, or whether it's one or more of their parents. And so I looked at the mission of our company and I looked at the mission of this charity, and they're incredibly well aligned. At Axial 3D, we do a lot of work in pediatric care. It could be in orthopedics, maybe for congenital conditions such as scoliosis. It could be for congenital heart disease in young babies, which is heartbreaking, and absolutely with oncology and cancer, where children maybe have bone cancer or cancers in other parts of their body. And 3D imaging, especially because children are so small, their anatomy is small, so getting precision from the traditional medical imaging is even harder or even less valuable, where the precision of 3D brings this huge value creation. So when I experienced and learnt about the Cancer Fund for Children walking with Roy last year, I realised that this was the natural charity for me to bring my mission from work and translate that into what I'm going to do outside of work for the next 6 months.
Yeah. And when you think about raising £1 million for the Cancer Fund for Children, it's a big target, but what impact can that amount of money have on a charity like that?
Yeah, so at the moment, the Cancer Fund for Children provides service in the community at the families' homes. They also go into hospitals, into the children's cancer wards, and provide support, non-clinical support in those hospitals. But they also have a remarkable centre in Newcastle, County Down, with one of the most beautiful views of the Mournes for respite care for literally hundreds of families every year to get away from the horror that is their day-to-day lives, day on day, where their lives are turned upside down with whatever cancer prognosis and treatment path that they have, which often goes on for many months and even years. To be able to get away for 3 or 4 days to what in effect is this oasis of happiness and forget your troubles. And as a family, just whether they be financial troubles, which often many of these families have as a result of having to take care of each other, just having this freedom to do what you want, to have an amazing kitchen that will cook whatever you want. If you want Nutella pizza or Nutella on cornflakes, they'll give you Nutella on cornflakes. They have a wonderful spa. They have a most inspiring part of Northern Ireland to spend time in with the best view. I've been down to Daisy Lodge and I've been struck by the joy that is in the families. So that impacts hundreds and hundreds of families around Ireland every year. They're now opening, and part of what we're raising these funds for is a second, even bigger centre in the village of Cong in Mayo, which is a remarkable place. And that new centre will be 50% bigger. We'll be able to take even more children from around the island to the point where we hope that there will be no families who need respite care or can benefit from respite care who don't have access to it. The community workers and staff, carers in Cancer Fund for Children, already provide care in all 32 counties in Ireland. I want to stress that. So it's not a Dublin or a Belfast or a Cork centred charity. They're truly distributed across the island. And the respite care will match that. So there will be one location in Cong and one in Newcastle, County Down, where these kids and families can come and just bring some joy and peace into their lives. And that's the impact we can make. We absolutely are on a mission to ensure that no child goes through cancer alone.
Yeah, and it's such an important cause, and I think whenever we think about this podcast, the purpose of this podcast is to get the message out there, is to show people what it is both the Cancer Fund for Children are doing and also what you're doing with this challenge, the 26 Mountains to Mayo. So when we think about the listeners or anyone watching this, how can they support you and the rest of the team on the challenge? What can they do for you to help?
So first of all, I think spreading awareness of the criticality across the NHS, across the HSE, of care for families who are suffering from cancer somewhere within the family, that just because of funding, the state, either the UK or Ireland, just don't have the funding to provide the care outside of the clinical setting that families need. So first of all, spreading the word is an awareness. One of the reasons I put 20 business leaders together, when I looked at Rory's success, or many of the amazing charitable fundraising, and probably looking not much more even beyond Kevin Sinfield, often they're very focused on one person, one command and control structure. What I hopefully have helped put together is we have one team, but it is 20 focal points. I have 20, how would I describe them? Probably, they're certainly self-starters, they're highly motivated, they're probably fairly alpha male and female, so not many of them are followers. So each one of them has their own ecosystem, their own relationships, their own company relationships. So rather than throwing a big pebble in a pond and trying to use that to spread the ripples coming from that, we're throwing 20 pebbles in the pond and creating this multiplying effect. And because we're focusing on not only individuals who will support us and maybe help with funding, but also businesses, and getting businesses across the island involved in this program. Hopefully each of those businesses who join up, they all become a little pebble and can then throw the ripples out from that. So we want to create a movement here. So if you have any of the viewers and listeners have an appetite, I would commend you to come to our website, www.26m2m.com, 26 Mountains to Mayo, and see if there's something there that appeals to you. And if there is, how can you help us? You can help us with a personal donation. You can help us with a corporate donation. You can get involved. You can run your own fundraising. You can sign up as a corporate sponsor of Cancer Fund for Children. Every way helps and any little bit helps. But we want to create a movement. But I would commend, if you've seen this podcast or listened to it, please share it if you think that there's some value in it, and raise the awareness of what we're trying to do. Rory Best created something here. We've picked the baton up from us. I want to be clear, Rory is joining us for some of the mountains, and if Rory's listening, hopefully for more rather than less of the mountains. But we are very much picking the baton up from him, but we're also not only creating an amazing, hopefully, event this year or challenge this year, but we're making this even more sustainable and even more something that's going to grow and grow and grow and prove a sustainable model for how charities can fund going into the future.
Yeah, that's incredible, and it's so well thought out. It's been months, probably years in the making on your mind, and it's something that you've kind of been planning, and I'm sure there's been challenges along the way. And when you think about the main challenge when you're actually doing the 26 Mountains of Mayo, what will that be, and why do you think it's going to be difficult? Obviously you're training in the lead up to it and you're preparing in the lead up to it, but something could come up, there could be a challenge along the way. So what do you believe the challenges that are going to come up to be?
So first of all, the first challenge is to get ready for the event, actually be in physical and mental shape for when the challenge actually starts. With a little bit of irony, we picked the 7th of June as a start because, of course, in Ireland, in the mountains, the weather is going to be perfect then. We do have the benefit, however, in June of the longest days, because we will be, each day will be between probably 12 and 14 hours long if we're on schedule. So definitely preparing, and that's a combination of absolutely fitness, I think, definitely a little bit of weight issues as well, and that is quite a serious issue, and certainly nutrition, and just also mental strength. This is not a trivial challenge, and one I certainly feel very mortal about when I think about it. The challenge itself is typically we're climbing about 12,000 meters over 9 days. So that's almost 1.5 times the height of Mount Everest from sea level. So that's quite a journey. Over 9 days, whatever that works out at 1,200 or 1,300 meters a day, which is a reasonable, for those of you who climb Slieve Donard or Carrantoul down in Kerry, that's probably 1.5 times the height of those, or coming up to that. So it's an interesting upward challenge. And maybe to divert a little bit, before I was hiking, I always thought the up was going to be the hard bit. It absolutely is not. Climbing up, you can get your fit legs and lungs for that. Coming down is really hard because you're bang, 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 bang down each time, and you're creating a resistance, which is putting trauma on your joints and on your muscles. And as many of those watching will know, often when you climb a mountain, you feel tired when you get to the bottom, and that's largely not due to the ascent, it's the descent, where your muscles have been put under that stress. So that certainly is an interesting part. I should probably rephrase, instead of climbing up 12,000 meters, we're actually descending 12,000 meters over 9 days. I think the second challenge is each day we've 26 mountains over 9 days. That's an average of 3-ish a day. A couple of days on the big mountains, we only do 2 a day. There's one day in the Midlands where Ireland isn't so steep. We actually do 5 in a day. But you've got to get between these mountains. So in many days, we have between 2 and 4 hours driving to get between mountains in total. So if you think about your own personal experience, maybe you've gone up one of these mountains, you come down and then you go, that's great, and you either go for a shower or you go to the pub or whatever it is, but your day's finished and you rest your legs. We've got to jump in a bus, let's say, for an hour and a half. And then we've got to go again. We've got to repeat that. So your muscles that are a bit tired, you've got to get them in shape, both through maybe stretching, some rest, and absolutely nutrition, so that you're ready to go again. So you then go up another 2-3 hour up and down, and you get to the bottom, and you've another hour and a half bus ride, and you've got to repeat that. And then you've got to repeat that for 9 days in a row. So I think that's the challenge associated with this. It's not the fact that, of course, 1,200 meters a day is a good descent every day, but it's the duration over a day, starting maybe at 6:30, certainly late as 7 o'clock in the morning, getting to whatever our destination is for the end of the day at somewhere between 7 and 9 p.m. So I think there's the endurance of it, but also that start-stop nature. I've never done anything like that before, nor have any of the team members. So I think that's going to be an interesting challenge.
It's something new, and it's not something that you can just turn up for and be fit to do. It's taken a lot of preparation, it's taken a lot of hours, it's taken a lot of time to train your body physically and train your mind mentally, and train each and every single week, fuel your body for performance, and making sure that you're not eating for convenience, and all those different things that are going to be important along the way. And I think I'm interested to tap into your mindset and how your mind works, because I'm fascinated by psychology. I'm fascinated by successful people that are achieving big things in their lives. And as someone who is a busy CEO, you've performed at a high level in your career, you've built a great family, you've been there for everyone, you've done all those things. When you think about mindset lessons that you could share that have maybe led to you embarking on a challenge like this or achieving success in your career, what might that be?
So first of all, I think having purpose and clarity of purpose, I think that's a really important thing. And you know, I'm not trying to decry certain types of ambition or purpose, but having clarity of what that purpose is, I think, is really important. Not fooling yourself, and certainly not trying to fool those around you with purpose or ambition that just isn't true. So I think you've got to be true to yourself. And something probably I've learnt and spent much more time thinking about and continue to explore is understanding my purpose and what gives me meaning in both my work and in my personal life, and certainly in the some of these challenges and charitable work together. So I think that's a big area of focus. I was also thinking about this, and if you don't mind, I will just read something off a screen I have here. I was going to say that one of my great experiences of a life lesson probably didn't come from some famous business leader or religious leader. It was actually from a 1989 movie in which Steve Martin was the lead character, called Parenthood. And even more importantly, the most important lesson was from his grandmother. And if you don't mind me reading, so his grandmother, Steve Martin was feeling very lacking in confidence about his ability to be a parent and a grandparent, and feeling he wasn't good enough. And his grandmother said, she told a story about the time she was 19 and she went on a roller coaster. She loved it and wanted to go again and again. But some people didn't like it, she explains, and they preferred a merry-go-round. But her thought was that just goes round and round, boringly, without a thrill. And she said she liked the roller coaster more because she got more out of it. I realise that's a movie, a comedy movie, but I think it's a thought that struck with me from really since I first saw it. I think both understanding that life, whether you choose it or not, is a roller coaster, and I think finding a way to embrace that is a huge part of your personal and professional life. I think then something again that I've brought to, especially in some of the leadership roles I've had, I think for various reasons, if you're on that roller coaster, I think whilst it's valid and appropriate to somewhat celebrate the highs, I think you've got to be very careful about that, because the lows then, if you over celebrate and focus so much on those high points being the end and the purpose, and of course they're a key part in some of those, but part of the purpose and part of the journey is the low points, which by definition happen. And if you allow yourself to see those as the opposite of success and start analogizing those with failure, which they aren't in many cases, they're just part of the journey, part of the roller coaster. So how do you not get too down about the roller coaster, or the dips in the roller coaster? How do you learn to dust yourself off, wipe your eyes, put your big boy pants on, and get back to work the next day? And then similarly then for the ups, how do you take a little bit of pride in what you've achieved? Certainly celebrate those around you who have helped you get there, but recognize that all you are is on the next high point in the roller coaster, and what happens next is probably, it could be a loop-the-loop, but it'll probably be a down of some sort, and that's just part of the journey. So I think learning to cope with that, but also embrace that and embrace the challenges and the down times as much as you can, the upside, but recognizing that's hard, and that's definitely part of the journey for me. But I think it's something that I'm embracing.
Yeah, I really like that, and it applies to the challenge, I suppose, too, because the challenge isn't just going to be plain sailing. It's not going to be easy every single day, and if you got too excited after getting up the first mountain, you'd kind of be in for a long week on the journey. And I think so many people of my generation, some who'll be listening to this, think that progressing in business, in life, with your health is just going to be this plain sailing journey where you get to the top and there's no huge challenges along the way. And often people think it's easy. They see people who have achieved things in their lives like yourself and think that it's been an overnight thing. But I was actually listening to Gary Neville, the footballer and now business leader, a couple of weeks ago in Queens, and he talked about Sir Alex Ferguson's treble winning team. Yeah. And people used to say that it was an overnight success, but it was 13 years of hard work. He said that led to them winning the treble, and it's such an interesting lesson, and I absolutely love it. And as someone who's performing at a high level in both business and in your personal life, and with this challenge it's going to take for you to continuously perform at a high level, when you think about habits and routines that you have in your life that help you do that, because people will wonder, how do you manage to fit in your training for this trip and hike, and charity challenge, and how you're fitting in family time and then traveling to America with work and kind of leading this business. So, what's something that kind of allows you to operate at that level and stay consistently at that level? Because you're 59 now and You've stayed at that level for a long time.
Yeah, so I think there's a number of parts to that, and I think this is maybe some of the hardest lessons to learn, and maybe we're asking for more help rather than less help, rather than being I'm the leader, I'm the alpha, I can work this out myself. Actually looking to those around you to help you, I think is the first step in doing that. So very fortunate for me, about a year ago, I was able to engage with you. And what you did was bring back to me a structure in terms of my personal physical and nutritional well-being that I'd probably lost I had a lot of that focus when I was young and I was playing a lot of sports, and I probably drifted from that for maybe 20 years in the middle, and it was always there, and I always probably conned myself that existed or somewhat existed. Well, it wasn't totally gone. I didn't have enough of it, and especially as I get into my late middle age, you've got to put more emphasis on this. So that asking for help, and then secondly, associated with that, actually having accountability within that is a huge thing. And that accountability absolutely could be in my relationship with you, but also maybe creating accountability with my family, with my wife, with my children, with those in work. If I make a commitment to do something, I do it on time, first time. And that sounds simple to do, but it's easy to get weary in life, whether it be your work life or your personal life. So I think, first of all, getting help, it's definitely not a weakness, it's a strength to ask for help in being successful. And then secondly, creating accountability within that, I think, are great things that I've been able to focus on, in particular over the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think accountability is a big factor. And I think often people look to someone like me who coaches people like yourself to get fitter, get in shape, improve themselves. And people think, oh, well, Johnny knows exactly what he needs to do, so, you know, surely he can just do it himself. But I've got my own coaches and mentors in my world that keep me accountable, because for me personally, it's easy to let myself down. But whenever you've got someone else external that's holding you to a higher standard than you currently hold yourself, it makes you show up, and it provides you with that external person that gives you the kick up the ass when you need it, but also gives you the arm around the shoulder when you need it. And it's about kind of meeting the person where they're at and understanding them as a person and building that relationship to take them on the journey. And like you said, it's not a weakness. Often in the past for me, my ego held me back from reaching out to help, because I thought, well, I do this for a business. Of course, I don't need help to show up. But in actual fact, I did. And knowing what to do and doing it is a completely different thing. And whenever you think about your training regime for this particular event, obviously you're training regularly in the gym, and I can see how consistent you are with that and how committed you are with that. On my end, I see your completion rate, and when you've got a workout laid out, it's always ticked off to a T, and it's never missed, no matter where you are in the world, which I find incredible despite how busy you are. But, you know, what is, from your end, the training regime been like, and how does that look? And maybe someone listening who is thinking about embarking on a physical based challenge, what has your training regime been like?
Yeah, so I have in every way tried to embrace it. I think part of embracing it is trying to recognize that what I'm trying to do is create new patterns that are sustainable, as opposed to necessarily just doing a burst for this event. So that's probably the first thing. I'm sure when I get to April and May, I'll be doing a bit of bursting. But actually, what am I putting in place, or re-putting in place, or changing from what I have been doing that's going to be my new normal, and hopefully sustainable going forward? So I realize I'm not quite answering the question, but that's probably a good underpinning thing. I then try to force myself to where it now has become a habit, or more of a habit, that says, we all know that obviously in Northern Ireland we get amazing winters where every night is perfect and you feel like going out to do things. But sometimes you're sitting there and it's blowing and raining and you go, I think I'll sit this one out. We're in fact turning that round the other way, and actually learning to embrace and actually enjoy, if not the actual doing of the activity or whatever the part of your regime is, but at least enjoying that you're embracing it and the outcome of it, and you've succeeded against it. So I've tried to force myself, and increasingly I'm not forcing. It's easier that even when the weather's poor, I put my coat on, I put my headlamp on, and I go out. And that's even going up to the gym, or I do the 6 or 7 set or parts of the workout that I get set, and I do 2 more, or I go and do a few lengths swimming, or I also go and do 10 or 12,000 steps, whatever it happens to be, and just embracing that, actually being able to do a little bit more and enjoying that. And of course you get the benefit of the whatever chemical feeling at the end of it, but that's not what I'm striving for. I do recognize and enjoy that, but actually it's in my head, knowing that I'm focused and committed, but also embracing the challenge, and I mean the challenge in every sense of the word. I've found that a big building block in preparing, at least so far, in this challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say to our clients about the journey that they're on, it's not outside the goal that's the important thing. Yes, you've got the goal, but it's who you become in pursuit of achieving the goal, and the habits and the routines that you've put in place before the actual challenge, and people always talk about big performance targets. Often they say the hard work's done before the challenge actually happens, so it's actually putting in the work now and showing up, and how that discipline in your training life carries over into work, because you have to be disciplined to show up and do your session so that you can then come into work and have enough energy to show up and perform with everything you're doing, which I think is fantastic. And I'm intrigued because you're embarking on challenges, you're building and growing a company in Axial 3D. But at this point in your life, and I'm sure this has changed over time, but right now in this moment, what drives Roger Johnston?
So I think I used the word mission earlier a couple of times. Certainly at work, I think our mission ultimately is for millions of patients around the world, whether first world or third world, to have the benefit of 3D throughout their care pathway, whether that be for diagnostics or surgical planning, or indeed the actual performance of the treatment itself. So there's a mission behind that, and that absolutely drives me. If I have a crap day at work, I wake up the next morning, as I say, I dust myself down and I focus on what that mission is. I think at home as well, in my personal life, certainly for this charitable and physical challenge, clearly it's easy to have a mission around that. But I think in terms of understanding how a mission of where I want to simplify my home life, or simplify and bring comfort to the relationships within my family and those friends and family around me, and how we can try and remove complexity and the stresses of the world, at least in terms of how we engage with each other, is certainly part of the mission that I'm bringing to how I'm thinking through, maybe from a personal well-being point of view, or increasing my awareness of those that I interact with and how I interact with them, and particularly my close friends and family.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I'm excited to see you smash this challenge out of the park. Today's been an absolute pleasure. It's been really insightful. I've learned a lot just from sitting here, so I know that the people listening will do just that. So I just wanted to thank you for coming on and wish you all the best for the challenge. I know we'll be chatting back and forth in between times beforehand, but I think it's incredible what you're doing. I think there's a great mission behind it, and it was interesting to dive into your mind and hear what's actually making you tick right now, and why you're showing up and why you're putting so much time, effort and energy. Because I've seen it firsthand, the time and effort that has been put in already for this challenge, and the impact that that's now going to have, and understanding, me personally understanding the impact that's going to have on the Cancer Fund for Children. So it's incredible, Roger. Well done.
Well, thank you, and thank you for everything you do for me. So I'm enjoying the journey, both the highs and lows of the roller coaster.
It's epic. Thanks, Roger. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, sir.
Cheers. Guys, thanks for tuning in. I really hope you enjoyed that episode, and it was incredibly insightful to hear from Roger on his journey, and the team that are embarking on this challenge. Would really appreciate if you can share this episode with your friends if you've listened to it and it's been interesting for you, and to spread the message of what they're trying to do for the Cancer Fund for Children. Their website will be attached below. It's www.26m2m.com.
Yes.
I've got that right. It will be attached below, and I would really appreciate if you can check that website out, share it with your friends. And if you do nothing else after this episode, please do share this and check out their website, because what they're doing is absolutely incredible, and I cannot wait to see Roger and the rest of the 20 guys taking part in this challenge smash it out of the park.